it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with Trae.
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peeps that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Hi, and welcome to The Day with Trae. I am your guest host, Alicia Crank. Trae is off doing something very fabulous this week, so thank you so much, Trae, for trusting me with your baby. We will be right back where we're going to talk with Delbert Richardson, who is a second-generation storyteller. He has a lot to share with us, so we'll be right back.
Washington's biggest night out for sports
is Sports Star.
My name is Angela Poe Russell. Some of you know me from my years being a journalist, a reporter, host, but I've written a musical, co-written a musical, because I have an amazing team around me. It's called Aviatrix, and it's running at Seattle Public Theater this spring. But you can get an exclusive preview because Seattle Association of Black Journalists is having a program called Black Voices Matter. It's March 14th, on my birthday. Like, imagine that. And we're going to preview this new musical. You'll get to hear some of the numbers and hear the story behind it and hear how it went from a newsroom to a stage. So that's March 14th, the Seattle Association of Black Journalists at the Northwest African American Museum. I hope to see you there.
And welcome back on The Day with Trae. And we are joined by Delbert Richardson. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Good afternoon and Grand Rising.
Man, Grand Rising. So you have a lot of special things coming up, but let's first and foremost start with the 20th anniversary of the Unspoken Truths. Tell us more about that.
Yes, this marks the 20 years of my starting the work I call American History Travel Museum, The Unspoken Truth, which is really centered around identity development and self-actualization for Black and brown children.
Nice. And it is going to be starting back up tomorrow at the King Street Station.
Yes, I want to invite you, personal invitation, everybody out there, the 5th from 6 to 8, King Street Station, and you're all welcome.
All right, I will be there with bells on. And also, I was happy to learn in doing my homework about you that you are also from Detroit like I am, even though you weren't there as long as I was.
D-Town. That's right.
Motown,
the Motor City. Yes.
When did you leave there?
You know, great question. We migrated here in 1962.
Wow. And
the thing that's significant about that time period, 62, that was really in the middle of the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. And so I believe my father felt that me and my 6 other children maybe have a better opportunity coming out west. So I attended elementary, middle, and high school here in Seattle, Washington.
So you're a native. You're born.
Yeah, but I got Detroit roots.
Gotta love our Detroit roots.
Yes. Yes.
So let's take it back a bit. Tell us how you got started doing everything that you're doing.
You know, thank you for asking that question also too, because I'm asked that, and I know this journey started in 1954.
Okay.
That's when I was born.
Okay.
And if you know anything about American history, 1954 is historic because that's when the landmark case Brown v. Board of Education was passed. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about this whole notion of segregation, legalized bathrooms and water fountain, and I'm still here, it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
So part of my journey started with the fact that in elementary, middle, or high school, I didn't have any Black history. Wow. I didn't know that I can choose how I wanted to be seen till I went to the University of Washington.
Talk about that. Like, what happened there when you got there that made you go, I can do that?
You know, when I shared that with somebody previously, he said, so who'd you think you were before you went there? Which was a profound question because in 1954, we were titled Negroes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything different other than that growing up. And going to University of Washington, there were students on campus called themselves black. And in my neighborhood, if you called me black, we would have fought because we were socialized to believe that black was a bad term. So listen to these students and gaining some knowledge about why they were doing it, they had made a decision how they wanted to be seen. So that was transformative.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up, and this isn't even on my questions list, but I think about how when you talk about identity, talk about Negro, then Black, then African American, then BIPOC, and it almost seems generational at times, like the next generation is defining what they want to be called. What is your preference of all of these that we've been?
And here, let me say this. Why is it that Delbert has to continue to evolve in terms of his identity?
Right.
I'm going to leave that there.
Yes.
So to answer your question, by going to Ghana and going to Africa several times, I say I'm an African born in America.
Yeah. I went to Ghana in 2010, and I feel like I learned the same lesson out
Yes.
there. Like I was always kind of told anecdotally before going there is that, you know, people say, oh, you're going back to the motherland. But I was like, I was also being told that Africans don't see us as that way.
Yes.
And when I went, it was a Rotary trip to Ghana. We did this service tour, and we got to go through the whole country. So went from, you know, to Kumasi and back, and then Accra and every point in between. And it was interesting. I was the only black person in that group of 30 that went over. And I got a lot of looks, but it wasn't because it was, oh, she's our sister's back here. It was, they saw me as a rich American. And that was a first for me. Like, I don't feel myself I'm rich in any financial sense of the word, but that's how I was regarded. And that was an education.
Well, I think media has played a big role in that. A lot of, I call them continental Africans, people that are actually on the continent, all they have to go by is what they see and what they hear. And so I would also say that because of colonization, they also saw you through a different lens because of that as well.
Absolutely.
Because they've been lied to also too.
So the last time you were here, you were working on The Lion Tells His Tale.
Yes.
So give us an update on how that went and what might be coming down.
Lion Tells His Tale. Yes. Transformative to be in a play. And just imagine, Alicia, that somebody says, hey, I want to write a play around your life. And how would that feel?
Oof.
That's enough right there.
Yeah.
That's my point. That's my point, though.
Yeah.
But Miss Vita Sneed, who wrote the script, and her husband, Steve, directed it, and I've been knowing for decades, felt that my story needed to be told through a play. And my story is this whole notion of being a dark-skinned boy, growing up in terms of colorization, not being seen and valued because of my color, but also too that journey of going to University of Washington and coming back to finding that, hey, guess what? I am somebody. I do matter. And we're working on, I think, Lion Point 2. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
So let's talk a bit more about what your background has been. We kind of got a sense of, you know, how and where you grew up, ended up at UW, and then kind of fast forwarded to where you are now. Let's talk about that middle piece. What kind of work experience were you having that got you to today?
Thank you. I have a retail background. I worked for a major retailer here in Seattle for a while, and after I think about 8 or 9 years, I wound up leaving that company because I wanted to actually go back to school and get my degree.
Okay.
So going back to work for a beer and wine distributor, I worked full-time, went to school at night, got my degree, and achieved a goal that I've always wanted coming out of high school in '73. It was a 40-year journey, but I got my BA degree from Antioch, Seattle.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so you retired,
Some would say.
some will say,
Yes.
and delved into this. So tell us about this book.
Well, another opportunity arose. I'm a collector.
Okay.
I've been collecting Black Americana for over 30 years. And Alicia, if you think about your Aunt Jemima salt and pepper shakers, things like that, I didn't know that our images were used on a regular basis as marketing for white products. And so going to an antique store over 30 years ago, I became curious about these things. And the more and more I went to antique stores, I started seeing more and more examples of it being used. And before you knew it, I started having almost a little museum in my home of images that looked like me that were used to sell product.
And so have you done anything with it? Did you open up a little?
No, what I did was I started to think about how might this curiosity around artifacts inspire other black and brown kids. So as a result of that, I started educating on a lower, like a smaller level, developing a traveling museum concept over 20 years ago. And before you knew it, it's now a national award-winning, multiple national award-winning traveling museum.
So has it been in Seattle?
Based in Seattle, but COVID was a silver lining. I've always wanted to develop a virtual platform because only one of me,
Right.
and how might I be able to replicate myself? And so COVID allowed me to branch out online and actually be in other countries.
Okay. So how do you parlay that to, I sound like an old person when I say this, but the younger generation who do live online and like to do things virtually, how do you utilize those groups in being able to showcase this work?
You ask great questions.
Thank you.
And so one of the things in being a father of 4 children, I've learned that children are very curious when they are presented things that sparks their interest. So a lot of times what I'll do when I go into schools, I'll show them some items, I'll ask them a question for them to respond, and before you know it, they're engaged in a way they've never been before.
Yeah. How do we then also tie that back to folks in our age brackets?
Elders, yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm 71. And so one of the ways I tie that back in is start to ask them questions that will allow them to talk about some of those things in their childhood, that we can glean more understanding of what it was like being black or African American during that time period.
So what kind of educational things do you believe we should be looking at right now, especially in the time that we are?
Well, let me say this here. Now more than ever, we need to start getting back to our roots. And in my view, our roots are connected to the continent. When you start thinking about identity, you start thinking about this term called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. In my museum, I show the connection to those disciplines coming out of Africa. So that's that piece I learned at the University of Washington that made me feel valued because I had a history. And in schools, a lot of times, they want to start a history with slavery, and that's not the case.
Yeah. So when people come by the King Street Station to see this traveling museum, what should they expect?
They should expect, hopefully, to see themselves in the story. Doesn't matter where you were born or what your ethnicity is. The traveling museum is set up in a way to where hopefully when you start looking at your past, your ancestors, you see yourself in the story. Even though I start with Mother Africa, I ask people, for instance, if you're Asian American, Chinese American, Latina, Latino, I asked them to replace Mother Africa with their country of origin because we all have a couple things in common: rich culture, rich heritage, but also being oppressed here in America.
Yeah. You know, a question just popped in my head, so I apologize in advance if it doesn't come out very eloquently. But I've been spending a lot of time on TikTok, and I've seen a lot of, I want to say just black Seattle creatives or black people that have moved to Seattle fairly recently, and they all seem to have the same kind of video message, which is, one, where are all the black people in Seattle, and why does it feel different here than other places? Like they don't feel like there's a lot of black culture in Seattle. How do you respond to that? And I think those questions stand out to me too as someone who lives a bit north up in Edmonds. So I don't get to spend too much time in Seattle per se. Well, you know, I do see events that are happening, but I'm not hearing a lot about culture. What are your thoughts on that as someone who grew up here?
Well, there's culture here. And I think to their point, you got to look at numbers.
Okay.
There's not a lot of black people here compared to Atlanta, to DC, Detroit, and so it's easy to feel like there's not a lot of black people here because they're not relative to that. But there is a lot of rich culture here in Seattle. You must develop relationships like me and other people to be tapped in.
How do they do that? Where, like, someone to say, where do we go? Where's the gathering spaces to
Well,
be able to do something like
Yeah,
that?
well, there's the Emoji Fest that happens every year. There's Festival Sunjata that happens every year. And so those are two places that I would suggest that black people go to make connection with other black people, because we all are congregating during that time of the year.
And how would you give that same, is that the same advice you would give to someone of an older generation too? Because I think that's one of the things I'm also seeing is that there are older Black Americans moving into the area from the South or other places where, like you said, we were not the anomaly. You see, but engagement in a virtual space is not something that they're used to.
Well, I would say the Royal Esquire Club would be a great place to go. It's one of the oldest black clubs on the West Coast, and it's a great place to go and congregate and meet and fellowship.
Where is this?
Well, we got to get you hooked up, sis.
Whoa, hook the sister up.
I'll do that.
All right, we're taking notes. Before we go into what upcoming events that you want to share with the audience, one of the questions I was saying to you earlier on was, it's Women's History Month, and I'm asking all the guests to shout out, a woman in their life that they want to honor as part of this month. And you made a comment about Women's History Month or Black Women's History Month. Go into that.
Well, you got to really pay attention to the language, because we're in America, and for the most part, we've been socialized through the master narrative of American history, which is a white narrative. A lot of times, we're not seen in those spaces unless we call it out. Yeah. So it's February Black History Month, right?
Right.
There's Latino History Month. There's, I'm sure, Asian History Month and Native American History Month. Have you ever heard of a White History Month?
No.
Okay.
That's all the other time.
You got to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
There's no need for them to call out their history because they feel like they are the dominant culture. They don't need to call themselves out.
Point taken. So before we go, I wanted to give you an opportunity. Well, you still need to shout out the woman in your life.
Oh, my mom, Lucille May Richardson, rest her soul in peace. She got me involved in literacy early in age, not just reading, but having the ability to speak and articulate.
Yeah.
And so I never really struggled in school because I always had this foundation of reading. If you look at the numbers in Seattle public schools, our children are suffering as it relates to the literacy rate they should be reading at their age. And so for me, I had a foundation of literacy, which made me very curious.
How do you feel about literacy in this day and age? One of the things that I find myself thinking about, especially in this time of texting and all these other things, and now there's product names that are purposely misspelled because it's phonetic and stuff like that, and there's parts of my mind I'm going, we're going to become illiterate again because people are not going to know how to spell a word correctly because we've gotten so used to spelling things in other different ways. So as someone who has this literacy background, how do you feel about that?
I'm very concerned. One of the tools that I use at the museum, I ask students to write or create a reflection based on the experience. What I've learned, texting and emailing is easier for them than to write.
Right.
So one of the things you're talking about is that we're losing that ability to actually write cursive.
Right. I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
And actually be being able to tell a story in a way on paper that people can read it. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just afraid of it becoming going backwards, right? Because you talk about, I was going to bring up, writing cursive, and I'm glad I learned how to write cursive, and now that's not something that's being taught or thought about now. And then I think about illiteracy when back in the day, and that wasn't very long ago, where because you couldn't read or write, you signed with an X.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, are we going to get back to that? Because someone's not going to know how to, when it says sign here.
Yeah,
And
they'll be doing DocuSign. So
my God.
let me just share this if I can.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go any farther without talking about Dr. Carter G. Woodson.
Please do.
He is called the father of history. And so just imagine this in 1926, this Negro man felt it was important to develop an opportunity for his people to learn about their own history. So it went from Negro History Week to Black History Month. So we're celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Black excellence. And so one of the things I'm looking to do is do Black History in March, Black History in April,
Right.
May. Call it out.
Yeah, Black History doesn't have to just be a month.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Well, I want to leave you with the last word to the audience, so please be able to share with them any upcoming events that's coming up that you want us to know about.
Yeah, thank you. I want to give you a personal invite to come down and experience the American History Travel Museum, The Unspoken Truth. It's going to be at King Street Station, May 5th, I believe, to April 1st. And the museum's a chronological timeline. They use authentic artifacts, storyboards, and the ancient art of storytelling. And I'm pretty sure you'll come there and learn something and be curious and awed and wonder. And I'm sure you'll invite somebody else to come back.
Invitation accepted. Thank you so much, Mr. Richardson. Everyone, we'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
Washington's biggest night out for sports?
Is Sports Star.
Hi there, my name is Angela Poe Russell. Some of you know me from my years being a journalist, a reporter, host, but I've written a musical, co-written a musical, because I have an amazing team around me. It's called Aviatrix, and it's running at Seattle Public Theater this spring. But you can get an exclusive preview because Seattle Association of Black Journalists is having a program called Black Voices Matter. It's March 14th, on my birthday. Like, imagine that. And we're going to preview this new musical. You'll get to hear some of the numbers and hear the story behind it and hear how it went from a newsroom to a stage. So that's March 14th, the Seattle Association of Black Journalists at the Northwest African American Museum. I hope to see you there.
I once again want to thank Delbert Richardson for joining us today. And please take him up on his invitation. I plan on being down there tomorrow for the opening of this traveling museum, and it will be there through some parts of April. So go online, check it out, and I hope to see you around. Other than that, I will see everybody on Friday. Have a great day, and thank you for watching The Day with Trae.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.